Daily life just got a whole lot easier with these new apps.
Imagine if you took a photo of, say, a sign or a billboard with a phone number, a website, and even some text. You now have the ability to essentially highlight that with your finger on your phone or your tablet, and it becomes readable text.
Yeah, that blew my mind when they showed the demo of that. It was something.
The App Show, Saturdays at 11 a.m. Eastern on AMI Audio.
This is an AMI podcast.
I'm Dave Brown, and this is a podcast version of AMI's Morning Show, Now with Dave Brown. Catch the live broadcasts weekdays from 9 to 11 a.m. Eastern on AMI Audio and AMI TV.
Welcome back. This is Now with Dave Brown on AMI. I'm Mike Ross, in for the vacationing Dave Brown. And tonight on Double Tap Canada, the team will talk about one of their latest purchases, a watch from the Apple Watch 7 series. Joining us to talk more about it is Stephen Scott, one of the hosts of Double Tap Canada, which airs Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern on AMI Audio, and he is joining us this morning from Glasgow, Scotland. Stephen, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm good, Mike. How are you today?
I'm great, thank you. It's a pretty well-known fact around here that you are an Apple fan, a fan of Apple products. So I'm curious if there, other than your fandom, any reason why you wanted to buy this Apple Watch 7?
No.
Okay. Moving right along.
That's pretty much it. No, I have to say I actually bought the Series 7 completely on spec, almost like I was just picking up milk at the store. You know, it was just like, of course I'm going to get it. You know, I'm here, I'm going to get this thing. And, you know, when it finally arrived, it took a while. The supply chain issues have been having a real impact on purchases. And, you know, it took a while to get here. But when it finally did, I kind of thought, do I even want this thing? Do I even need it? And it sat on my desk for about 2-3 days before I even opened it and tried it out.
What are some of the accessibility features on this particular watch?
Well, this watch is not much different, if I'm honest, to previous versions. So, you know, currently available, you've got the Apple Watch SE, you've got the Apple Watch Series 6. You can still even buy the Series 5 if you choose to. And there aren't a huge amount of differences here. I think that the one single redeeming feature of this watch that really makes it maybe, and this is maybe, a little bit more accessible than other watches is the slightly larger screen. You're dealing here with a screen that's just a bit bigger at 46 millimeters. So it's slightly larger than the 44 millimeters, yet a whole 2 millimeters of difference. Which doesn't sound like a lot, and it isn't a lot, but it does actually make a real difference, I think, to the ability to have large text enabled on this screen. Now, large text, large dynamic type is available across all the range of Apple devices, including the Apple Watch range, even previous versions. But the difference here is that you're able to get it on a larger screen, meaning that text size can be bumped up just a little bit more.
What makes this one, you know, if the 6 and the 5 are still available, what makes this one stand out? What makes this one seem maybe more useful, other than the fact that it's the, 7, so the latest and the greatest?
That is ultimately it, Mike. I mean, I'd love to sit here and tell you all the wonderful reasons why you should buy a 7. But if you've got a 6, if you've got an Apple Watch Series 6 right now, or you've even got a Series 5, do you need to upgrade? The answer is no, unless you really want to, unless you want that slightly larger screen. I will say there are some nice features about it that I do notice. The speaker is much better in it. So when you're out in that busy street, if you're going into the Eaton Centre in the middle of Toronto and you want to have a wander about, as I did when I was in there and I loved it, spent way too much money. The problem is that when you're in an environment like that, it's very loud, it's very noisy. And having the watch able to hear that voice, especially the voiceover in my case, coming out of the watch, it needs to be clear, it needs to be loud. Previous versions weren't so great at that. This version, maybe because it's a little bit bigger, they've been able to add a better speaker in there. So, I think this is definitely something that is a good point to note about it. Of course, you also do have the blood oxygen level capability in there, which you did with the Series 6. You can check your ECG as you go. You can monitor your heart rate. There's lots of health benefits to having a watch like this. But then, in fairness, they're available on other watches too now.
Let's talk money. I mean, you just mentioned spending a lot of money when you were out and about shopping in Toronto. When you're shopping for Apple products, there's a big price tag that can come along with some of these items. And if you are someone, as you mentioned, if you've got a 5 or a 6, maybe hold off. You don't necessarily need to go and get the 7. If you don't have any of them, though, and you have the ability to go and get yourself a 5 or a 6 or a 7, is there enough on that 7 to make it worth the cost? And how much of a difference of cost are we talking between a 5 and a 6 and then the 7?
Well, when you get into the individuals, and remember the SE as well, I want to mention the Apple Watch SE, because that's a much more, you might argue, basic watch, but it's not basic. It's essentially the Series 4 that's been rebadged. And that's a good watch. That's a good watch to have. You're looking at around the $200-300 mark, depending on the type you go for, because, of course, there are different styles, different sizes. There are also options. You can have Wi-Fi, or you can have Wi-Fi and cellular. Now, cellular means that you can have the watch available to use on its own, independent of the phone. So let's say you go shopping and you want to use Apple Pay, you don't have to carry your phone with you in order for the watch to connect to the phone to almost say it's okay. Think of your phone in this case like a modem that you're carrying around with you that connects to your watch wirelessly. You can get rid of that option with cellular. So that, of course, increases the price. When you start moving up into the Series 5, the Series 6, and now the 7, you're looking actually at a range of up between $300 to around $700, depending on what it is you're after. Again, that high-end price, you're starting to get into, full Wi-Fi cellular on the best model, usually with a much more stronger frame to it. So you get the standard aluminium casing, but you can also get titanium. You can even go ceramic if you want to be really fancy about it, but that's you getting into the thousands at that point. And to be honest, there's no difference in performance.
When we're talking about the buying public and this latest model, is there a segment of that buying public that they're going after in particular with this Series 7? Or is it just like we talked about earlier, just about the true hardcore fans who always like having the most up-to-date, the latest Apple product?
I think this time around they were aiming at really design and just a new design of the watch, which essentially encapsulated a better screen, much more rounded edges, which made the whole thing feel very nice. I'll be honest, I can't really tell the difference visually or even, from feeling it. To be honest, I don't really notice a huge difference in the style of the watch. So maybe it looks better. I honestly don't know. But it certainly feels the same to me. What I would say, though, is this is definitely aimed at people who are on the move. If you are someone who's either on the move a lot, someone who enjoys a lot of exercise, or someone who wants to get into exercise, this is actually a great tool to have. It's really the reason the watch exists. For blind people, there are many reasons to benefit from having an Apple Watch because, of course, ultimately it is the world's A, most expensive, and B, ridiculously cool talking watch. But at the end of the day, it's still a device which has got a lot of function to it, which is really aimed at people who are on the move. If you go hiking, if you want to go for a run every day, if you just even stay at home and do some exercise on Apple TV, your watch is really the key to all of that because it tracks your metrics. Or hey, even if you just like a walk around town, just to add up on those steps every day by taking the dog for a walk or just having a gentle stroll, the watch can encourage you with that. That's what this watch is aimed at. It is continuing to be aimed at those people. But of course, it does have a huge amount of accessibility in it for us.
What else are you guys going to be talking about on the program? Because, of course, you're going to get ribbed, as you always do, about, oh, here comes Stephen, here comes another Apple thing, and blah, blah, blah. But you got to have something else in your back pocket or up your sleeve, right?
We get tons to talk about tonight. There's so much. We've got Rene Ritchie joining us, the famous YouTuber from Canada. He is going to be joining us to talk about the big tech stories, including Intel coming after Mac with their new processors, Intel developing their 12th generation processors. We'll get into that, what that all means. And also Microsoft have announced a new laptop, the Surface Laptop SE. He'll be talking about his thoughts on that and whether Microsoft is going after Google. They're all fighting with each other. And also, we're going to be talking to Courtney Craven from caniplaythat.com, a fantastic website that helps people understand if games are accessible. And I'm talking here about the big games of the moment, the games everyone's playing on their Xbox or PlayStation 5. And this follows on from the news this week that Forza Horizon 5, the driving game, is now fully accessible to anyone who's disabled, including those who are blind. Yes, blind people can now go driving at 200 miles an hour. I don't know what that is in kilometers, but certainly 200 miles an hour. You can go flying around the track, fully accessible experience, even if you're blind with this game. So we'll find out how that's possible and lots more on tonight's show.
All right. Appreciate that preview. Appreciate the conversation. As always, Stephen, thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Have a great day.
You've been listening to Now with Dave Brown. Hit the subscribe button on any podcast platform and leave us a rating and a review.